I have so many memories of myself in this parade, just, from being a teeny bopper dancer, walking through all the way up to South Point High School cheer. And I've always grown up going, wow, why is this on a Tuesday? Like, why is this in the morning on a Tuesday? And it wasn't until last year, or maybe it was when I first started the chamber, that I kind of delved into the history of the parade, because I knew taking this position that would be a big undertaking of ours. So it is the 73rd annual, and there is history there. So.
Awesome. Welcome back to Building Belmont, or welcome to Building Belmont. I'm your host, Keanu Trujillo, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that's connection and business. And we have the leadership team from the Montcross Area Chamber of Commerce, Mark and Miranda, joining us today. And they're going to talk about their background and how they came to the chamber, but they're also going to tell us about what a chamber is. I'll be honest with you, when I started my first business, I had no idea what a chamber of commerce was. I thought it was, kind of more like a museum type thing than something that's active and working now. And so I'm excited to make an introduction to you all, because when I started my business, I wish I would have found the chamber earlier. And I just had no idea. I was about a year and a half into my first business when I finally found the chamber, and you, Mark. So I want to make that introduction today, but also get to hear your story and how you came to be here. So Mark and Miranda, welcome to Building Belmont. You are actually headquartered in Belmont, downtown Belmont, yes, in the old City Hall building. So you are literally building Belmont together. So ladies first, Miranda, give us your background and introduce yourself.
Thank you. That was a great introduction. And I think we'll have a lot to talk about what a chamber is. So I'm newer to the chamber, but I'm not new to Belmont. My name's Miranda. I was born and raised in Belmont. I went to South Point High School, and post-high school, I went to UNC Asheville, up in the mountains. And I think when I first went to college, I wanted to become a high school guidance counselor.
Wow. Because
Miss Collins at South Point was amazing, and she made me want to do that. And turned into wanting to become a lawyer. So I graduated with psychology and legal studies. And the whole mindset of you want to become a lawyer because you want to make the world a better place. Some have the opportunities to do that, and others, it's a job. You got to do what you're kind of instructed to do. So I steered away from that and found a job at Station in downtown Belmont as a beer tender. At the time, we didn't have any of the fun, crazy spirits they have now. And started there on and off. I would work a lot, I'd make a lot of money, and then I would travel. I ended up becoming a brand manager type of social media instructor for Bubba Jane's Boutique, which is now in downtown Belmont as well.
Okay.
With Allison, she gave me my first little shot at a big girl job that really didn't have anything to do with my degree, but with my people skills, I guess, was the best way to put that. And of course, during COVID, I ended up getting another marketing position at Freedom Financial, which is in Belmont as well. So I keep getting brought back into this community, and I'm happy to do so. It's where my family is and my friends, so I love that. And then post-COVID, I was looking for something to do. I ended up moving to Spain for a little short of a year and teaching English over there, and came back in March. Was looking for full-time employment, which any young person can tell you when you've got that on your mind, it seems daunting and terrifying looking for that full-time job. And it kind of found me, and I everything that's been a good opportunity in my life, I've been found in Belmont, and just by talking with others. So I was in Station, I was working. They always welcome me back. I'm thankful for them. And a woman came up to me who's a really big pillar of the Belmont community, and she said, I have a position that you need to go inquire about. And she sent me to Mark to find out about the Chamber of Commerce position they were hiring for. And I was in your shoes. I was like, I have no clue what a Chamber of Commerce is.
Right.
In my mind, I was like, that's a big girl job. That's like a serious thing. And how am I qualified for that? And I sat and talked to Mark, and I firmly believe he is the reason I kept pushing for that position, because he has such a great vision. And when I found out kind of really what the Chamber of Commerce does, it aligned so much with what I wanted to propel in a community, which is, assisting small businesses, assisting the people around, and doing that by being supportive, So Mark took a chance on me, and I think it's been pretty okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll see. I think Q4 eval should be coming up, so we'll see. It's interesting, your story. I want to touch on it real quick before we get to hear, Mark, your background. But from wanting to be a counselor to going into legal, working at the bar, marketing, now into the chamber, there was always an undertone of people.
Right.
And wanting to be connected and connect people. So in seeing that, how did that continue to develop for you in your story that, hey, you know what? I've wanted to serve people through all of these different avenues, and it's not really like you've done anything different. You've just found different vehicles to do it in. So now being able to do it in the chamber, what's your favorite part about being able to connect now through Montcross Chamber?
I think when you have that type of perspective, where I grew up, all I wanted to do was, make the world a better place. I think my parents might have a different opinion about that, but it seems daunting at the time. Like, I did psychology because I knew no matter what I would be doing, I'd be working with people, so no matter what career choice I made, I would have to deal with people. And it seems like a big deal to be like, I'm going to make a big impact on a lot of people, until you can break it down to making a lot of impacts on one person over and over and over and over again. So the chamber gives me the opportunity to individualize that assistance. So we have businesses who come to us and they need the smallest of things to me, but it's a big deal to them. I can make a small graphic about an event in 30 to 40 minutes. But to some businesses, that's not something that they can do. So being able to do that, like, oh, it's nothing to me, but it's a big deal to them over and over and over again, it eventually will make a big impact. So it kind of all ties together into helping people help, everybody else. But.
Well, now going over to Mark and your story. So I know that you have an extensive background in chamber work, connection work, and we actually had the opportunity to work together for a while when I joined the chamber, and still to a degree today. And so I got to learn a lot about your background, and it is impressive. So can you give us a high-level introduction of yourself and your background in chamber work?
Yeah, I've never been able to hold a real job, so I've just worked in chambers. The joke that I had, I was one of 3 kids growing up, and very, very modest background. And my mom, she had aspirations for us, and of the 3, I'm the only one that had any potential to go to college, which I did. And she was so proud of that, but to think that I came out of college and took a job eventually working at a local chamber of commerce. And I don't think she could quite figure that out. I sent my son off to college to be, to save the world, and now he's in a chamber of commerce giving out maps. And so that was the joke. And to me, it was, I've spent, truthfully, going on 50 years, if you think about it, actually building communities. Now, if you'd told me when I started off doing that at the age of 23 or 24, oh boy, you're coming in here and you're going to be doing something about building communities, because I didn't know what a chamber was when I went to interview for the job. And but that's what it is. And so I have stuck at it. It kind of becomes a part of your life. I've taken a couple of different detours along the way, when things were, I said, geez, this is too much. I decided I wanted to be a realtor one time. That lasted about 10 months. And then I went over to Memphis and found out what it was really like to try to change a community. Going from a Raleigh, North Carolina to a Memphis, Tennessee, and the demographics involved there, people ask me, why in the world would you want to do that? And I said, because if you can do it in Memphis, Tennessee, you're really going to make a difference. If you look at the demographics and you look at the 2 communities miles apart. And so that was really a great learning experience for me there. But I have always come back to working with chambers, trying to change communities. And it's all about change. And yes, we are serving businesses, and that's our job. We have to add value to that member because that's part of what keeps us moving. That's what separates us from other organizations. We have members, so that when we go before a city council or a county commission or a state legislature, we're representing hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs. If we did not have that, we would not have the credibility of a Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. So over the years, the brand Chamber of Commerce has been recognized by lots of different branding groups as probably the number one creditable brand in America. You want to put that thing on your window that says, I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and somehow that makes you okay. But chambers have to earn their keep. So, and it's a constantly evolving thing. So I did that. I've gone from chamber to chamber. I've probably been in about 5 chambers. Each of them different profiles, different characteristics, different needs. But bottom line, it's all about how do we move this community closer to its potential? Yeah. And so that's what we do.
Yeah. Well, I did want to ask that, what is the purpose of a chamber? And you've been in chamber work. Tell me when you took that first job, what year was that?
1972.
Okay. And I don't do that to age you. I just want to share exactly the wisdom and experience that you have.
And I have to think a little bit about that. Yeah, it was 1972 in Lynchburg, Virginia. And I went to work I was working at Lynchburg College at the time in admissions and then development. Loved that. It's my alma mater. Great place. But I felt like I needed to get out and, try out something different. And the president of Lynchburg College that year was the head of the chamber. And they sent a little note around the staff and said, know anybody that wants to be in the chamber, go to work at the chamber. Yeah. I said, what's a chamber? And that started it all. I went to work for a man that I really consider the person who set my foundation. But in those days, I didn't like it because he was so demanding. But anyway, that's how I got my start.
So 50 years of chamber work.
Yeah.
How often do you think about that?
In my resume, they put over 30, and I say, that's just such a lie.
Yeah.
You might as well tell it what it, all you got to do is look at me. And then figure out the age, and it's more than that.
Yeah, but if you spend some time having coffee with Mark, you'll know that he's still very, very energetic for his youthfulness. So a lot of energy still, Mark. And so 50 years of chamber work, you've been able to see a great shift not only in chamber work, but in society in general. And so what is the purpose of the chamber as it's shifted? Because in the beginning, and I believe that connection, I feel like, with no offense to Barajas Company, both of our amazing marketing agency, that some people can get very lazy with digital advertising, and they'll forget that they need to get out and shake someone's hand. They need to get out and actually meet someone personally. So even businesses that I'm working with, hey, what are you doing to actually get into the community and not just rely on your digital advertising? And so the chamber helps to provide that. But back in the day, you needed to be plugged into your chamber or you had no way of connecting. But now you're competing against Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, whatever, everything, right? And so if I want to connect with someone in your chamber, I just got to find them on LinkedIn. I don't necessarily need the chamber. So I've been able to see that, and even in our work together, that the chamber has to continue to evolve in how it's meeting those needs. And I know that you all have been really on the forefront trying to figure out, all right, how do we do that? So what are some ways now that you're engaging with the community and some ways that you're bringing people together in a time where we don't really need that, but it is incredibly helpful and people should want that, right?
Yeah, I think, of course, we all talk about the pandemic, and of course things changed. And we will never go back to the days prior to the pandemic. It'll never be events only, quote the old term, networking. It's still valuable. It's still one of the main reasons people say they want to join the chamber, because I want to get to know other people, expand my business. But we can do that online. We can do that through a lot of different ways. But the thing that's changed the most for chambers is our mission. We found out that through this crazy pandemic, we never realized, how critical, how dangerous that thing was. And then we realized how, as a business, we're only as good as the community that our business is in, and vice versa. That community is only as good as the businesses that it grows. And so we found out right away that the mission of your local chamber has got to be much more closely aligned with the community. In the old days, I'll be honest with you, we just didn't really care much about what the community thought. We were a private sector chamber. Our job was to be the watchdog. Our job was to go down to City Hall and say, you're doing this wrong. And that's typically what our reputation was.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. And it was a kind of a negative. But then I've always found that we can get a lot more done if we collaborate than if we do that. And so I've always partnered very closely with the local communities. But today, if you don't have a mission that is closely aligned with your community, then you won't stay in business as a chamber.
It reminds me of, obviously, I love to get out and connect with people, and so do you. I'm sitting at Everyday Market probably a week ago. I'm sitting there, I'm doing something, I don't remember what it was, and Miranda, hey, can I sit with you? Can I have a cup of coffee? Absolutely, and every time Mark too. So if you really want to connect with Mark, I think it's every morning around 8 a.m., Mark, you're there having coffee with the guys?
That's been something that's been part of my personality, whatever you want to call it. Every community I've been in, and I can go back and tell you where I hung out in Raleigh. It was the drugstore in Fairview, part of Raleigh. Every place I've been, there's been some little local place that I can go and sit and meet with people and talk to people for 30 minutes a morning, and they're not the people I'm with the rest of the day. And they really give you a great perspective on how unimportant you are.
Yeah.
Because they don't care. I go in there talking about all the great stuff we do, and they look at me going, we don't care. You're part of the problem. Let me tell you why. So that's just been part of my fabric. I'm not lazy. I'm not hanging out and goofing off.
Right.
I'm just getting to know the people, and it's a different group of people than you meet with the rest of the day to do things. So yes,
it's important.
It's important to do that.
Well, you reminded me of it. I want to ask you how you're aligning with the local communities, because Montcross serves Belmont, Mount Holly, Lowell, Ranlow, Cramerton, McAdenville, and Stanley.
Correct.
Yes, I knew there were seven.
Seven.
I knew there were seven.
And we get criticized sometimes if we don't say Gastonia. And we do say it. The Gastonia city manager and their folks, they're involved with our chamber. And other than Belmont, we have more members with the Gastonia address than we do anywhere else. But those other communities that you mentioned in the Montcross area, they have needs that we try to address.
Yeah.
And so that's how we are connected to them.
Yeah. So 8 unofficially.
Yeah,
you do serve Gaston.
yeah,
It's hard to
I like
exist
to say that, yeah.
in Gaston County and not be associated with the largest city in the county.
Right.
So when you were talking about how you align with the communities, and I do want to ask that, it made me think of this when the pandemic struck. Mortgage officers, how many loan officers do you know? Probably a dozen, right? Loan officers started just coming out of the woodwork because it was a very lucrative business at the time with interest rates going through the floor. And I was speaking with an executive for a mortgage company, and they mentioned how they kind of got lazy because they didn't need real estate agents anymore. So 2020, 2021, they were building plenty of business without the real estate agents. But then as it started to turn, they started to realize, oh, wait a minute, we forgot about them. We should probably align with our real estate agents again. So I kind of heard that for you and saying, well, we need to make sure we're aligned with our communities, which is a business model for me that I admire in whatever industry you're in, to align with those that are trying to do the same mission. So you align with your communities. Tell me about some ways that you are aligning with your communities, whether it's things that you've done or things that are maybe coming up, Miranda.
I think one of the biggest parts about the Montcross area is, of course, there's going to be that healthy competition between each community and city. But in the long run, we all look to each other for ideas and assistance. And we're all, 5 to 10 minutes apart. Yeah. You can cross. When I lived in Cramerton at one time, I was closer to downtown Belmont than I was to my parents' house in Belmont, So there are those alignments. And so we wanted to get them all together to say, hey, like, this doesn't have to be an individualistic what is going to be next, but what do we see for this area coming next? That's a great way of how the chamber is kind of trying to gather and get those communities together. Our DE&I summit that we had a couple weeks ago, that was a really, really awesome event. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a huge thing that we have as a focal point of the chamber. And it's you would think it's something everyone knows about and wants to pursue, but we've come across businesses and things that, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize this was something I needed to pay attention to. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think both of those programs that Miranda has mentioned, interestingly enough, fall under the scope of a program we call Montcross Emerge that we came up with 2021, beginning of 2021. And it was in response to COVID, but it was a way for us to put a program in place that would help our businesses and those communities we serve kind of get back up and running before we wanted to be proactive and not reactive. And so part of these programs are part of Montcross Emerge. And some of these communities are actually investing dollars in our Montcross Emerge initiative so that we can do these programs. All of them are designed at growing business. Everything we do really is designed at adding value to a business and helping them grow. And what some businesses have not recognized, and even some of our leadership even admitted this after the last DE&I summit, they said, I never really looked at it as a way to help business. And I said, well, duh. I mean, why would we be doing this if it wasn't a way to help business?
Right.
This isn't a feel-good kind of thing. It is, but it isn't.
Right.
We didn't do this to make us feel better. We did this so that we could show our small businesses and business community that if you have a better understanding of the people out there that could be in your workforce, that you may be missing them because of some overt way or less than overt way you might be presenting yourself or communicating with your current employees. You can grow your business if you have a better understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah. It's not a right or a wrong. It's just, hey guys, we talked about this. It's like Miranda and me being different generations. You better understand what the other one's thinking if you're going to be successful in working together.
Absolutely. Well, DE&I is something that if we can all just be candid, we're not here on the podcast some strangers to the community. We're in the community too. And so we understand some mindsets around certain things that are presented. And unfortunately, diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that had been hyper politicized. Right. And so if you want to stop anything in its tracks, politicize it. Yeah. And so some people may think that, DE&I is something that's just more political or it's left-wing, whatever. And it's so much more than your color or your race or your background. It's like you said, Mark, your thought processes, your personality, the way, the kind of food that you like. There are little things that play into DE&I, and it's not a political thing. It's actually simply back to the point of a chamber. It's a connection thing. So what are you doing to broaden your perspective to understand and connect with people? And, I remember from the first E&I summit that we did, talking about certain ways that you may be alienating good talent because of some of your qualifications. So I used to be a police officer, and the higher tiered agencies or departments at the time required a 4-year degree. Well, you're starting to see now they're actually starting to remove that, and a lot of them have, because they realize that a degree isn't necessarily an indicator of success anymore. And so certain companies will have these qualifications that are actually alienating to certain populations inadvertently. It's not a racial thing. It's just they don't know. So when you're able to open up and say, well, this person has this degree or only maybe got a GED or a high school diploma, but they've spent 10 years in leadership here, that may be something I should look into, but my automatic system of qualification ruled them out. I never even got to sit down with that person. So I like what you guys are doing from that. And I felt like I needed to say that because someone may have just been listening and heard DE&I and thought, oh my gosh, I want nothing to do with it. Here we go. But it's not that. It's truly just saying, how can I add to my perspective?
Right.
Which is incredibly effective in business.
And one of the things that a good chamber does is it recognizes what those issues are that are out there that you need to put in front of your membership and your leadership. And that's our job. And sometimes it's not the kind of thing that people want to hear or see. Yeah. But when we look around the country and we see, my gosh, other really good chambers of commerce are getting involved in this from this angle and that angle, why don't we try it? Let's do the same thing to elevate our business community.
And it's different. We are in the South at the end of the day. And so it's a different climate. You've worked in several climates and different atmospheres, and it's different every time. I moved here to work for a church. Doing ministry in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and doing ministry in Charlotte, North Carolina is vastly different. Even the way when you invite someone to church, the way they respond to you. Well, what kind of church is it? And in my mind, it's like, well, it's Christian or Catholic, Presbyterian, whatever it may be. Here, they're asking, is it a black church, a white church, or a brown church? Yeah. Right? And it's just different, and that's not a bad thing. You just have to be in tune with the communities. Right. On another scale, you have then, we'll close with this, you have the Christmas parade coming up, which the chamber has led for 17 years.
I think even more than that. I was trying to find a complete record of it, but it's the 73rd annual Christmas parade this year. From what I'm understanding, the Christmas parade began in 1949. And as we know, Belmont's history. So we run the Belmont's Christmas parade because the chamber, the Montcross chamber, began as the Belmont Chamber of Commerce, and now we do business as the Montcross because we do include so many other communities that we needed that, kind of rebrand. We're still housed in Belmont, and we still do this as, kind of a homage to our roots. So I have so many memories of myself in this parade, just, from being a teeny bopper dancer, walking through all the way up to South Point High School cheer. And I've always grown up going, wow, why is this on a Tuesday? Like, why is this in the morning on a Tuesday? And it wasn't until last year, or maybe it was when I first started the chamber, that I kind of delved into the history of the parade because I knew taking this position that would be a big undertaking of ours. So it is the 73rd annual, and there is history there. So as you know, Belmont was a mill town. Like, that's where this big boom came from. It was the Chronicle Mill was the first mill in Belmont. The Stowesville Cotton Mill was one of the bigger mills in Gaston County that kind of brought this revitalization. And I think now that we're in this time of the world where time is money and, getting out of school and getting out of work is a hassle at a certain point. Back then, having that community time was kind of far and in between. So they chose a Tuesday so that the mill workers could get off work. They could go to their families. They could celebrate Christmas with their families in their community and have that, time of relaxation, but Christmas joy, I guess. Yeah. So it kind of made me go, okay, you know what? I like that we get off work, we get off school, we all meet in the middle of downtown. These businesses open up earlier. They serve, specialization hot chocolate for the kids or whatever. And it's really nice. It's a homage to those people that built this community that we now thrive in. Yeah. So, November 29th this year starts at 3:30 till about 5:15. I think it gets a little longer every year as more businesses kind of jump on. Yeah. We have, floats and businesses can enter all they want. It's an awesome community event. Yeah.
And we'll be live streaming it, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, and I think we have a special host.
I think so. I'm glad to be a part of it. Okay. I guess that's the announcement. But yes, Well, the parade will be live streamed, and I'm honored to be able to do that with Montcross for those that may not be here. But you know what? Even those that may not even live here anymore, as you're talking about the history, maybe there's something nostalgic about that they can join via Facebook, YouTube. We're going to be streaming it everywhere. To see their hometown parade again, 73 years running. So I did want to ask about that Tuesday. People have asked about that, and I've heard the stories, and so it's honor to the past.
And we're both relatively new, and so you come in and say, well, boy, the first thing I'm going to do is change that. Let's have it on a Saturday morning.
Of course.
Or something, let's do. You couldn't do it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
We want people to understand the history. It's been going on a long time. It's a great history. And we're going to provide this year, I think for the first time, with our streaming opportunities, we will provide sponsorship opportunities for businesses to purchase a banner that goes across that streaming photo. And we'll be announcing what those purchase prices are. They'll be very reasonable. But that way businesses get to kind of advertise themselves on the Christmas parade, and people will see what kind of businesses are around Belmont too.
So there are opportunities for businesses to purchase a float or to purchase the opportunity to be in the parade to promote their business, which again, the chamber supports the community and the businesses. And then there's going to be opportunity to advertise on the stream as well.
Right.
That's right.
Okay. Awesome. So I was wanting to get into some call to action, some ways to get involved. So tell me about membership. Let's go back to the basic side of it, becoming a member. How do people become a member, and what do they get when they become a member of the Montcross Chamber? We got some awesome things going on with Finding Next. We have the Emerge Initiative, obviously the parade. Yeah. What happens when someone becomes a member, and how do they become a member?
Well, first of all, we are a membership-driven organization. So the fact is that we require our members, if they join the chamber, they will pay dues. Some people call that investments. We call it a dues investment, annual dues investment to belong to the chamber. We have gone through quite a revision of that over the last 18 months, a lot to do with the pandemic. So we've gone to, okay, what value do you place on your membership? The base rate is $300 a year, and for that we're going to make sure we do your ribbon cuttings. We're going to give you some digital opportunities as a new member. And then the next value, though, the next level might be $575. It might be the president's professional level. Thank you. First it's called the associate level, then the professional level. But we have about 5 or 6 levels. So when we sit down with a new member, or that new member goes to our website, this information is there. And we say to them, you pick. You decide what value do you want from your chamber membership. Yeah. And a lot of that value comes from, these days, your digital kind of benefits. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's tiered. So there are different levels of membership that we ask people to come in on.
Yeah. Okay.
The last 6 months or so, since Miranda's been here, over 50% of the new members are coming in at higher levels. Mm-hmm. They want to be at that higher level because they want to get more from their chamber membership. They're going to demand it, but they're going to pay more, but they're going to get more. So that's how we do it.
Okay, awesome. Miranda, anything else to add? I hear that you may have had a hand in helping to create this tier structure.
Honestly, when I came in, Mark had a pretty good idea, but it's created because each business is so different, and we have such a wide variety of businesses, and as Montcross, we kind of tend to focus on small businesses, so we had to make it worth their time. I think it was Ray Hardy at the Point Church who coined the term phygital for us the other day.
Yeah,
it's physical and digital, and how you have to kind of marry those in between now and make that combination. So we kind of made it phygital. We have those physical benefits that, like you said, we kind of forget about now and then. The handshaking, the introductions, the getting in front of people, having those opportunities. We offer those in the terms of invites to all the events, sending out certain conversational pieces to people to get in front of other people, and introductions, that type of stuff. And then the digital benefits, which through Barajas Company we're able to provide, they're great to us. And those can be as simple as, hey, I have an event coming up soon. You have a large contact list. Can you make me a digital email that looks nice and looks poppy, and send that out to your contacts? So that's one of the digital benefits we provide. So yeah, we've fine-tuned it, I think, and we've had some great responses. There is that need, I think, for someone to say, we can do that. let's figure it out. Let's make it work.
We will add a link to become a member, but can we also add your email address?
Yes. So I am the director of membership and development. So my email is just miranda.wood@montcrossareachamber.com. Put it on there. You can email me with any questions, any of that good stuff. We have a welcome guide, and we have Facebook, and that's very active, and Instagram as well. One of the bigger things that we've just kind of launched is a members only Facebook group. You know, I'm 26, and I think Facebook is awesome for finding out events and information. So we made a members only group that people businesses can communicate on and kind of, you know, ask for assistance or say, hey, you know, I'm doing this event. Does anyone else want to collaborate? And kind of have more of a forum base that's very specific to just our members. Give them that safe space, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, a space where you know that you're actually engaging with other members and not simply being solicited to.
Right.
So miranda.wood@montcrossareachamber.com.
It's a big one.
It is a mouthful. Okay. Let's maybe look for Dell walked out of the room. He wasn't here with us earlier. Maybe let's do a different domain name. Let's shorten that a little bit. It's my unsolicited guidance.
I mean, I think we could quickly shorten it to, you know, miranda.wood@macc.com.
Perfect. There you go. Look at us making strides. Awesome. Well, for those of you that are listening, if you are a business owner, leader, or even someone that simply wants to get more involved with your community, because it's not just to get out, you know, what can you get out of it as a business owner, but what are you willing to invest? And so you may be someone that doesn't own a business or is not in local government leadership, but you can still get involved with the Montcross Area Chamber of Commerce, and you're going to find a lot of ways that you can connect with others and connect with what's actually going on in our area. So become a member, email miranda.wood@montcrossareachamber.com. At least you'll remember, wow, that's a long email address, and I need to get in touch with her. And of course, if you want to become a sponsor or advertise or buy a float for the parade, make sure that you reach out to her on the same. You can say, I want to be in the parade, I want to become a member, and I want more information on the event. And she'll take care of you. Trust me, she will. So you want to get involved. Like I said, I wish that I had known about the chamber earlier, and I don't want that to be a reason that someone else doesn't get to connect with our community to grow their business or simply grow in the community.
Awesome. Well,
Anything else to add, guys?
I think we covered a lot of ground this morning.
Yeah. Well, we'll have you all back on again to stay on top of what's going on in the community and things that you all are also doing to serve it. You know, I have a mindset in business that you're not paying me necessarily to spend time with you. I go into businesses and spend time with them planning and doing different things. You're paying me so that way I don't have to do something else. And you think about that as a business, we are members of Montcross. We're investing and we are helping to sustain Montcross so that way we don't lose it. Because we're not paying you necessarily to be here. We are paying for that. But we're also paying so you don't have to be somewhere else. And if it can't support itself, well, then, Mark, you're going to have to go to another chamber and lead something else awesome. And Miranda, you know, who knows what's next? So we want to invest not only for what we are able to grow in our business and our community, but also to make sure that this awesome benefit to our community sticks around.
Absolutely.
And you are headquartered out of Belmont, so a little bit closer to our mission of building Belmont and beyond. So thank you guys, and thank you all for joining us on another episode. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Building Belmont podcast. I'm your host, Keanu Trujillo, reminding you to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast platform. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. And of course, share with a friend, share with a neighbor. We'll see you again next week as we capture more stories, create more connection, and share more information here on the Building Belmont podcast.